She was invisible to her millionaire boss, but when she received flowers, he got jealous and did the unthinkable. For years, she was invisible until someone sent her flowers. That morning, the office changed, and the man who ruled it lost control for the very first time. Before we continue, if you enjoy touching and inspiring stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Now, let's get back to the story. Miss Reed, you can collect your things by the end of the day. The words didn't echo. They sliced clean through the hum of the open-plan office, landing like a blade on the woman in the emerald green blouse who now stood as if made of glass. Isabel didn't flinch, not in front of all those eyes. Her fingers tightened ever so slightly on the envelope in her hand, the one with her name printed in gold, and a delicate trace of rose still clinging to its edges. It had arrived that morning by courier, sitting quietly on her desk before anyone else had walked in. A gift from someone who saw her. And now she was being fired. The voice had come from Alexander Grant himself, CEO of Grant & Hawthorne, and until this morning, a man who'd passed her desk 5 times a day without once saying her name. Tall, controlled, untouchable. That was the aura he wore like his royal blue suit. And yet, when he'd seen the bouquet, lush, intentional, unmistakably romantic, resting beside her monitor, something behind those steel blue eyes had cracked. It wasn't much, just a pause, a flicker. But she'd noticed. Then came the meeting request. No subject line, no explanation. He hadn't raised his voice when she entered the glass-walled office, hadn't gestured, just spoken. "You've compromised the neutrality of this office," he said coolly. "You've allowed personal matters to interfere with professional standards." She'd said nothing. There was nothing to say. Because this wasn't about policy, it was about who sent the flowers, and the fact that Alexander Grant didn't know. An hour earlier, the office had buzzed as usual, phones, keyboards, coffee orders, and complaints. Isabel had just returned from the break room, her heels never making a sound. People didn't notice her when she moved. That was her secret. She got everything done, perfectly, invisibly. Then came the delivery. A low murmur spread like a breeze through the office. Not because flowers had arrived, but because they had been for her. Not Claire in marketing, who staged her life for Instagram. Not Savannah Clark, the sharp, radiant executive assistant with her signature red lipstick and 1,000-watt smile. No, they were for Isabel. Quiet, courteous, always early, always gone before anyone realized she'd left. The card had read, "To the woman who makes the world better without asking for praise, thank you for existing." No last name, just the initial. But it was enough. Savannah's glance had lingered too long. One of the junior partners had raised an eyebrow. Someone whispered, "She's seeing someone?" But then Alexander walked past. 10:07 a.m., sharp. He saw the bouquet. He saw Isabel's soft smile, the first one in months. He stopped. Not for long. Barely 2 seconds. But enough. At 10:10, she received the summons. At 10:15, she stood inside his office, hearing her own career unravel in sentences so polite they hurt. At 11:01, she was walking out, not just of the room, but out of her place in this world. She didn't cry. She returned to her desk, sat down with the grace of someone trained in silence, and opened her drawer. Slowly, she gathered the pieces of her invisible presence. A framed photo of her mother, a tiny ceramic swan her niece had painted, the pen Alexander once borrowed and later returned. She kept it. Not out of sentiment, but quiet defiance. And then came the vase. Simple. Clear glass. The flowers still glowed inside it, soft and alive, as if unaware of the chaos they caused. "Hey, Isabel?" The voice was careful. It belonged to David from accounting, a quiet man with kind eyes who always noticed when she skipped lunch. He approached holding 2 coffees and an awkward half-smile. "I don't know what just happened," he said, "but I got you this. No cream. Extra cinnamon, right?" She blinked, surprised. Not at the coffee. At the kindness. A real gesture in a place where small things usually went unnoticed. "Thank you," she said, her voice soft but steady. "That's very thoughtful." Their fingers brushed as she took the cup. David smiled, sincere, a little nervous, and walked away without needing anything back. Across the office, behind the tinted glass, Alexander watched, his expression unreadable, his hands behind his back. The card from the bouquet now rested on his desk. He read it again. "Thank you for existing." He flipped it over. No full name, no initials he recognized, no logo. It irritated him. Not just the mystery, but the fact that she had a life he didn't know about. 3 years. Isabel Reed had worked right under his nose for 3 full years. And now in the span of 1 delivery, she wasn't invisible anymore. At 12:37, the office emptied for lunch. Gossip, now fully unleashed, fluttered from desk to desk. You think she was seeing a client? No, it's someone internal, maybe legal. Could it be Alexander? No, he doesn't date staff. Across the street, Isabel sat alone in the corner cafe, her coffee untouched. Her hands rested on the envelope, her eyes on the city that moved without her. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then opened the message. "I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. Meet me at 7. Same spot as last time." M. She stared at the screen. Same spot? She had no idea who M was, or did she? She rose slowly, slid the phone into her purse, and stepped out into the cool autumn air. That's when a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. The back door opened. A familiar voice, warm, male, said from inside, "You weren't supposed to get fired." That wasn't part of the plan. Her breath caught, her feet stopped, and for the first time that day, Isabel Reed didn't know whether to run or get in. The voice from the car was calm, almost amused, but Isabel froze on the sidewalk. "You weren't supposed to get fired," he said again, leaning slightly into view. That wasn't part of the plan. She didn't recognize him, not entirely. His face was vaguely familiar, like a blurred photograph you swear you've seen before. Early 40s, clean-shaven, salt and pepper hair, crisp shirt, relaxed confidence. Still, her instincts flared. "What plan?" she asked, her voice tight. He gave a faint smile. "The one where you get flowers, smile a little, have a good day, and keep your job. Can I offer you a ride?" She didn't move, not toward him, not away. The driver said nothing. The car idled patiently. "You sent them?" she asked. "I did." He nodded once. "I'd explain better over coffee. But considering the current damage, I'm willing to upgrade to wine." Her eyes narrowed. "You think this is charming?" "No," he said with a tilt of his head, "but I think it's mine to fix." She didn't know why she stepped forward. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe curiosity, or maybe it was because no one had ever caused a scene for her before. He didn't speak again until the car door clicked shut beside her. 10 minutes later, they sat across from each other in a quiet corner of Delancey's, not far from the office, but far enough to feel like another world. It wasn't fancy. Vinyl seats, chipped coffee mugs, the kind of place where everyone knew the server's name. He ordered a black coffee. She asked for chamomile tea. They sat in silence while it arrived. When the drinks came, he didn't speak right away. He just pushed a small white envelope across the table. Same thick paper, same elegant font, but this one was open. She took it slowly. Inside was a second card. "Some people are loud with their power. Others make a dent in the world by simply walking through it. I noticed you long before the flowers." No name, no initial this time. She looked up. His gaze was steady, not flirtatious, not apologetic, just still. "Your name?" she asked quietly. "Michael." He leaned back. "Michael Carr. I used to work at Hawthorne's charity division before the merger. You once corrected a decimal point on a donor's file and saved us a lawsuit. I never forgot it." Isabel blinked. That had been 3 years ago. No one had even thanked her. "You remember a decimal point?" she asked. "I remember people who see what others don't." He didn't smile like a man trying to impress. He spoke like someone who meant what he said and didn't expect anything back. "I left the company," he continued, "started my own firm, but I kept getting the foundation's newsletters, and last month I saw a photo of the board at a charity dinner." You were in the background refilling water glasses. She remembered that night. The catering team had been short-staffed, and she'd stepped in quietly. No one had said a word. "I tried to find your name. Took me 3 days." "And you sent flowers," she said, voice still guarded. "I did, because for some reason no one else had." Isabel lowered her eyes to the tea. She wasn't sure what stunned her more, that someone remembered or that someone had watched her from a distance and cared. "You could have just emailed," she said after a pause. "I thought about it." He exhaled, then smiled faintly. "But I figured emails go ignored." "Flowers don't," she laughed. "Just a breath of it. Surprised, embarrassed." But it was the first real laugh she'd felt in weeks. Michael sat back as if relieved. "There it is." "There what is?" "Your laugh." "I imagined it differently." He took a sip of coffee. "Louder. It's actually kind of gentle." She looked at him sideways. "This is very strange." "I know. And a little reckless." "Definitely." She held his gaze for a second longer, then reached for her tea, hands finally steady. "Thank you," she said after a beat, "for the flowers. And a very weird car pickup." "You're welcome." She looked at the time, nearly 2 p.m. She should have been back at her desk, but there was no desk anymore. And for the first time since she'd been fired, that thought didn't sting quite as much. When the check came, Michael reached for it, but Isabel placed her card on top of his hand. "I pay for my own tea," she said simply. He smiled. Not because he'd been challenged, but because he liked the answer. As they stepped outside, she adjusted her purse strap, unsure what to say next. He stood beside her without speaking, as if sensing the moment needed air. Then her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. A photo, blurry, a screenshot. It showed her at her desk, smiling at the flowers. And behind her, half-cropped, was Alexander Grant, watching. Underneath it, a caption. Noticed by the wrong boss, or playing both. No sender, no signature, but it had clearly been taken from inside the office. Michael glanced over her shoulder and saw the image. "That's not good," he said softly. "No," Isabel agreed, throat dry. "That's someone trying to destroy me." And just like that, the fragile calm of the afternoon shattered. The photo still hovered on her screen, grainy and sharp all at once, a blurry frame that now threatened to undo everything. Michael leaned slightly closer to Isabel, brows drawn. "That was taken from inside your office," she nodded. "Probably near the elevator bank. That angle, it's low, like someone pretending to tie their shoes." He looked at her, serious. "Who would want to hurt you?" She didn't answer, not because she didn't know, but because she did. Savannah. There was no proof, no certainty, but Isabel remembered the glance, the one Savannah gave when the bouquet arrived. She remembered how her lips curled, too calm. Savannah was the kind of woman who smiled sweetly while setting fires with silk gloves. Michael offered to walk her back to the office. She declined, not out of pride, out of strategy. "I need to go alone," she said gently. "If you come with me now, it only adds fuel." He nodded. "Then I'll be nearby. Call me if anything happens." He handed her a business card, embossed, elegant, scentless. She slipped it into her bag beside the envelope from the flowers. Then, without a word, turned back toward Grant and Hawthorne, her heels clicking with a quiet kind of resolve. When Isabel stepped into the lobby, the receptionist blinked twice. You came back, the girl whispered. Yes, I need to see Mr. Grant, privately. A pause, then a nod. He's still in his office. She took the elevator alone. The ride was silent, the kind of silence that feels intentional, like the building itself is holding its breath. Outside his office, the door was half shut. She lifted her hand to knock. She didn't get the chance. "Read," Alexander said from behind the desk, without looking up. "You're not scheduled to return." She stepped in. Closed the door. "You fired me without a hearing. No formal HR meeting, no due process," she said evenly. He looked up. Something in his face shifted. Not guilt, not anger. Something closer to confusion. There was an image circulating internally. "Suggestive," he said it. "Yes, I just received it too." Her voice stayed calm. Her bag remained on her shoulder. "I think someone inside the company is trying to spin a story that doesn't exist. And if you allow that narrative to grow, it won't be me it hurts." Now his eyes narrowed. "Are you threatening me?" "No." She stepped forward. "I'm reminding you what I protected for 3 years." He blinked. The tension between them, so often invisible, now pulsed, heavy and unmistakable. Then came the knock. The door swung open, and Savannah appeared, voice syrup sweet. "Mr. Grant, I brought the updated board." "Oh." She stopped. Isabel turned, fully composed. Savannah's eyes dropped instantly to the bag on her shoulder. "I didn't realize you were still here." Isabel smiled, a quiet one. "Neither did I, but it seems some things were handled prematurely." Alexander stood. "That'll be all, Savannah. But I—" "Close the door, please." For the first time since she started at Grant and Hawthorne, Savannah obeyed without a word. When the door clicked shut, Alexander walked around the desk and stood near Isabel, not close enough to cross a line, but close enough that the air shifted. "What do you want, Miss Reed?" he asked softly. She didn't flinch. "An apology, a clean record, and one more thing." He waited. "The flowers stay on my desk," she said. That caught him off guard. "Why?" She lifted her chin, her hazel green eyes steady. "Because I liked them." And for once Alexander Grant had no retort. Later that afternoon, Isabel sat quietly at her desk, or what remained of it. Someone had moved her chair. A monitor had disappeared, but the vase of flowers remained. The peonies were still vibrant, still fragrant, still hers. A post-it was stuck to her keyboard, a new one, in all caps, "You're not fooling anyone." She peeled it off slowly, folded it, and slid it into her drawer. Savannah passed by seconds later, arms full of reports. Isabel smiled. "Busy day?" she asked lightly. Savannah didn't answer. Micro-victory. At 6:15, Isabel closed her drawer and stood up. David from accounting reappeared as if summoned by invisible thread. "You're really back," he said, holding a paper bag. "I brought an extra sandwich, no onions." She took it, touched. "Thank you, again." He hesitated. "Also, your flowers are kind of famous now." She turned. Everyone was pretending not to look, but their glances betrayed them. Isabel was no longer invisible, and that somehow made her presence louder. She sat at her desk and unwrapped the sandwich. Simple, egg and cheese, warm and humble. Warm. She took one bite, then looked out the window. Across the street, Michael stood on the sidewalk with his phone, just standing, not watching, waiting, and yet she felt it. His presence. Quiet, solid. A second later, her office phone rang. She answered. Isabel Reed. Alexander's voice was low. Your desk is missing a chair because I moved it. Why? Because tomorrow you're not an assistant anymore. Silence. I don't understand, she said carefully. You'll find out at 9 a.m. meeting, my office. Bring coffee. The line went dead. She stared at the receiver, heartbeat climbing. Then she turned to the bouquet on her desk. Tucked between two peonies, now visible in the fading light, was something she hadn't noticed before. A tiny, folded slip of paper. She reached in and opened it. One sentence, handwritten, "You deserve to take up space." By 8:53 a.m., Isabel stood in front of Alexander Grant's office, holding 2 coffees, her posture composed, her blouse neatly pressed, her dark hair falling freely over her shoulders now. Not tied back, not tucked in, just free. She didn't knock. The door was unlocked. She stepped inside. Alexander was at the far window, hands in his pockets, back straight, gaze somewhere beyond the skyline. Same royal blue suit, same perfect tie. But something was different today. He didn't radiate control the way he usually did. He looked unsettled. She set the coffee on the small side table near his desk. "On time," he said without turning. "Always," she replied, her voice gentle but firm. He finally turned, and for the first time his gaze lingered. Not over her outfit, not over the coffee, just her. "Sit down, please." She did, in the chair that had been mysteriously removed from her desk yesterday. Now it was back, placed next to another chair, not behind it, equal height, equal ground. He opened a folder, pulled out a document, and handed it to her. His words came measured, clipped, the tone of a man used to giving orders, but now almost careful. "Executive liaison to the board," he said. "Reports directly to me. No calendar duties, no coffee runs, no administrative tasks. Your title comes with decision-making access." Isabel looked down at the crisp paper. Her name was printed at the top, bold, official. She read it twice before lifting her eyes. "You're promoting me." "I'm offering you a position," he corrected, though not sharply. "One you've already earned, quietly, without asking." A pause hung between them. She looked up again. "Because I didn't make noise while others stepped over me?" His jaw tightened slightly. But he didn't answer right away. Then, quieter, "Because you did everything right, without ever needing the spotlight, and I noticed." There it was, that word again, noticed. He exhaled after saying it, like he hadn't meant to. But she held his gaze this time, letting the moment sit. She folded the offer neatly and slipped it into her bag. "I'll think about it." "You don't have long." "I don't need long." She stood. He did too, instinctively. Her hand touched the doorknob when his voice stopped her. "Who sent the flowers, Isabel?" She turned slowly. "Why does it matter?" He didn't answer, but the flicker in his eyes, part curiosity, part something else, said everything. By lunchtime, the whispers in the office had evolved from curiosity to suspicion. "She's getting promoted?" "To what?" "Did you see those flowers? Maybe she's dating one of the board members." "Or him." "Definitely him." Isabel sat at her desk, back straight, back. Posture elegant, hands moving swiftly over the keyboard. She responded to board inquiries as if she'd been doing it her whole life. At 12:33 p.m., a new delivery arrived. The courier approached cautiously, glancing around at the increasingly watchful eyes. "Ms. Reed," he said, holding a new bouquet. Ooh. This one was different. No red, no peonies. Lavender, baby's breath, and soft white ranunculus. Quiet, thoughtful, poetic. No card, no note. She stared at it for a long moment, then reached for the old bouquet, gently moving it aside to place the new one beside it, not for display, not to provoke, not to, just to let it exist. A ripple went through the office. People turned away too quickly. Phones lifted, pretending to text, and far behind them, Savannah stared like she was chewing glass. At 1:10, David from accounting appeared at her desk, holding 2 small paper bags. "I figured it's getting harder to eat lunch in peace," he said. Grinning sheepishly, she smiled, genuinely this time. "You're becoming very good at showing up with food. I figure when in doubt, offer soup," he said. They sat in the break room, the only 2 there. A soft quiet surrounded them, not awkward but easy. He passed her a spoon and a napkin. Vegetable bisque, he said. Comfort food, no onions. You remembered? You're kind of hard to forget these days, she laughed gently. Believe me, I used to be an expert at being forgettable. Not anymore, he said. You walk through this place like you know something they don't. Maybe I do. Yeah? He sipped his soup. Like what? That I don't owe anyone an explanation. A pause. He looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time, not as an assistant, not even as a colleague, just as someone who had earned her presence. Then her phone buzzed. A text from Michael. We need to talk. Something happened last night. Urgent. She stood up slowly. I need to take this. He nodded. If you ever want to get out of this building for lunch, I know a place that doesn't serve gossip with the dressing. She smiled again, touched. I might take you up on that. As she stepped into the hallway, she nearly collided with Claire from marketing, who was adjusting her hair in the glass. Claire blinked, then smirked. You know, she said, I always thought you were boring. Isabel raised an eyebrow. Turns out, Claire continued, you're just mysterious. I respect that. Kind of sexy, in a dangerous way. Isabel stared. Claire winked, then disappeared into the stairwell, leaving behind perfume and passive aggression. She returned to her desk, only to stop short. Alexander was there, standing, looking at her flowers, his back to her. He wasn't touching anything. He wasn't pretending to be casual. He was just staring. She didn't say a word, not even as he walked away. But for the first time she saw it. He was losing control, and she was no longer under it. At 6:10 p.m. she met Michael in a quiet cafe near the park, far from their usual haunt. He looked tired, edgy. His tie was loosened, and his phone was already on the table. She sat. What happened? He slid his phone across the table. An anonymous message. She's playing you. Ask her what she wants from Grant. Attached was a photo of Isabel standing in Alexander's office, the contract visible in her hands. Her face remained calm. I'm being watched. Yes, Michael said. And someone wants to pit us against each other. I don't have anything to hide, she said. I believe you. But she saw it, the flicker of doubt. She stood. Where are you going? Back to the office. It's after hours. Exactly. He stood too. Do you want me to come? She shook her head. Not this time. She pulled her coat tight, stepped outside into the cold, and walked with purpose. In her pocket, her fingers brushed the edge of that handwritten note. You deserve to take up space. And tonight, she was going to take it. The elevator lights flickered slightly as Isabel rode up alone, arms folded, coat draped over one arm. The building had long since gone quiet. No printers whirring, no heels clacking, no laughter spilling from the marketing lounge, just the mechanical hum of the 19th floor settling into silence. When the doors slid open, she stepped out into the corridor where she had walked 1,000 times unnoticed. Tonight, her footsteps echoed. The office was dim, illuminated only by the golden wash of security lighting. Desks sat like ghosts in the dark. She didn't pause at her own. The flowers were probably gone anyway. No doubt someone had already accidentally tossed them out. She kept walking. Alexander's door was slightly ajar. A soft light bled through the glass panel. She pushed gently. He was still there. Jacket off, sleeves rolled. One hand pressed to his temple as he stared down at his laptop screen. The other held a pen, though he hadn't written anything in the last 10 minutes. He didn't notice her right away. You work late, Isabel said, stepping inside. He looked up, startled for only half a second, then covered it smoothly. I could say the same. I forgot something. She glanced toward the desk behind him. But I see someone remembered to clean out my workspace for me. Alexander closed the laptop with a soft click. That wasn't my doing. No, she said. I imagine it wasn't. He studied her for a long moment. Sit. She didn't sit immediately. Instead, she walked over to the small side table and placed a paper bag next to his coffee tray. "Chamomile and cinnamon," she said. "You looked like you needed it yesterday. You still do." He hesitated, then sat back slowly, eyes never leaving her. "You're bringing me tea now?" "You didn't fire me again this morning, so I figured we were being civil." He smiled, just the corner of his mouth lifting. "Fair enough." This time, she took the chair opposite him. No notebook, no tablet, just her presence, and the quiet confidence of someone who was no longer afraid to take up space. He reached into the bag and pulled out the mug. "You made this?" "I steeped it myself in the break room, so technically, yes." He took a sip, closed his eyes for half a second. "It's calming." "Try not to sound so offended." Another small smile. "I didn't expect you to be calming." Isabel tilted her head. "What did you expect?" He opened his mouth, then stopped. "I don't know. I don't think I expected you at all." There it was, the honesty that slipped out when it was too late to take back. She folded her hands in her lap. "I came to ask something." He set the mug down. "Ask. Did you offer me that promotion because I earned it, or because you thought it would silence me?" His jaw tightened, but only slightly. "Both, if I'm being honest." "Thank you," she said. He looked up, surprised. "For what?" "For not pretending otherwise." She stood, walked a few steps toward the window, and stared down at the empty street far below, the same street where Michael had first pulled up beside her. Where this spiral had truly begun. "I know about the leaked photo," she said without turning. "The one showing me holding the contract. Michael received it yesterday." Alexander stood too, quietly. "Someone wants to make you look calculating. And you?" "They're trying to make me look compromised." Her back straightened. "Isn't that what they've always feared?" He stepped closer. "What do you fear, Isabel?" She turned slowly to face him. "Becoming someone I don't recognize," she said. "Or worse, letting someone else tell my story before I do." The air between them shifted. Not romantic, not yet, but thick with something unsaid. Something forming. "Do you regret anything?" she asked. Alexander's reply came after a long beat. "Yes." He didn't say more. He didn't have to. The next morning, Isabel walked into the office at 8:45. Her desk was bare, not just tidied, erased. Both bouquets were gone, the vase, the cards, even the post-it in her drawer. Everything she hadn't removed herself had been wiped clean. Savannah walked by, carrying 2 lattes in one hand and a smug smile in the other. "Oh," she said with fake surprise. "I guess facilities thought your things were trash. You should really leave a note next time." Isabel said nothing, just looked at her. Slowly, she didn't need to raise her voice. Her silence was enough. When Savannah turned the corner, Isabel opened the drawer again. Something small and unfamiliar sat tucked in the back. A photograph. Printed. Matte. Black and white. Her standing outside Alexander's office, taken from behind. Head slightly tilted, holding a folder. On the back, in tight handwriting, "Wrong man, wrong time." Her throat tightened. Who had left it? Michael? But the penmanship was too different, too sharp. Alexander? Unlikely. It was too pointed. She ran her thumb along the edge of the photo and slipped it into her coat pocket, next to the folded card from the bouquet. The one that read, "You deserve to take up space." Now there were 2 messages inside her coat, 2 voices, and she didn't yet know which one to listen to. By Thursday morning, everyone was whispering again, louder this time. It started at 9 a.m. when a staff-wide email came through from a board address. Subject line, regarding Ms. Reed. The body of the message was blank, except for a screenshot. A photo of Isabel sitting across from Alexander in his office, her expression calm, his focused, a contract between them. The file name? Untouchable? The sender had been removed from the server 5 minutes later. But it was too late. The email had hit every department: marketing, legal, partnerships, even the mailroom. Someone had hit reply all, and the message spread like wildfire. By 9:30, Isabel couldn't walk to the printer without someone staring. By 10:02, a junior analyst whispered loudly near the elevator, "If she's untouchable, I guess that makes him touchable." Someone else actually snorted. She held her head high and walked back to her desk without rushing, without reacting. But inside her drawer, she reached for the folded photo again, the one left anonymously. Wrong man, wrong time. She didn't believe it. Not entirely. But this was what it looked like when someone tried to burn a woman from the inside out, not with accusations, but with implications. At 10:17 a.m., Alexander Grant did something no one expected. He opened his own office door and walked directly to her desk. All eyes followed him. He didn't care. "Miss Reed," he said, voice steady, not sharp, "walk with me." She rose quietly and followed. He didn't speak until they reached the boardroom. Empty, glass-walled, silent. He opened the door, waited for her to step inside, then closed it behind them. "I'm calling an internal investigation," he said. "It is combing through server access. We'll find who did it." "And until then," she asked, "I'll handle the narrative." "How?" Her voice was even. "Publicly." She blinked. "You'll make a statement?" He nodded once. "I don't want pity," she said. "I don't give pity," he replied. "I give respect, and this—" He gestured vaguely toward the invisible chaos outside. "This isn't about romance. It's about control. They don't like that I trust you, that I see you." The word again. See. Her voice dropped, softer now. "And do you?" He looked at her for a long time. "Yes," he said, but there was something else in his face, something unspoken, like a wire pulled too tight. He stepped closer, only a few inches, not touching, just there. "The flowers," he said low. "If I'd known that someone else had already seen you, maybe I would have—" "What?" she whispered. He held her gaze. "Noticed sooner." Her heart thudded in her chest. For a second she thought he might say more. Do more. But instead he stepped back, professional distance restored. "I've scheduled a late lunch," he said, voice returning to neutral. 3 p.m., private dining room. We'll discuss strategy." She nodded. "I'll be there." He opened the door for her again. This time when they walked out, it was her who led. At 3 p.m. sharp, the executive dining room felt like a different world. Low lighting, white linen, no one else inside. A bowl of lentil soup sat steaming in front of her when she arrived. It smelled of rosemary and garlic, the same blend she used to bring from home, back when no one asked what she ate. Alexander was already seated. He looked tired, but focused. "I sent the statement to the board," he said. "They approved it." She unfolded the sheet beside her plate. It read, "Ms. Isabel Reed is being considered for an executive liaison position due to her extraordinary diligence, discretion, and insight. Internal Security is currently investigating unauthorized misuse of office communication systems. Personal attacks on employees, anonymous or otherwise, will not be tolerated." She set it down. "It's strong. It's true." She sipped the soup. Quiet, warm, simple. "I used to bring this," she said, looking down. "No one ever noticed the smell?" "I did," he said, surprising her. She looked up. "I just didn't know how to ask about it," he added. There was a long pause. "Why now?" she asked finally. "What changed?" He thought about it. Then, without pretense, "You changed." Another pause. "Or maybe you stopped hiding." Her spoon paused midair. Isabel had no reply, because deep down she knew he was right. As she left the lunch, passing the frosted windows of the dining room, a voice startled her. It belonged to Mrs. Weatherby, an older board member with pearls for every occasion and a tongue sharper than most knives. She leaned on her cane and looked Isabel up and down. "Reed, is it?" Isabel nodded. "Yes, ma'am." "You walk like you're in control of the floor." "Should I not?" Weatherby grinned. "If I were 40 years younger, I'd be walking the same way. Keep going, dear. Let them sweat." And just like that, a tiny, unexpected moment of support, a micro-victory. By 4:17 p.m., a new envelope appeared on Isabel's desk, unmarked. Inside, a printed message. "You're being watched from both sides. Choose wisely." Attached was another photo, this one of Michael sitting alone at a cafe, watching someone out of frame. The caption beneath typed, "He sees what he wants, so does Grant." "But what do you want?" She read it twice. Her eyes didn't flinch, but this time her hands trembled, just enough for her tea to ripple in the cup beside her. Isabel stood in the back corner of the cafe, watching Michael stir his coffee like it held answers. She'd come alone, no coat this time. No coat this? No armor. He looked up when she approached. "You got the photo?" he asked. "I did." He exhaled through his nose. "I swear it wasn't from me." "I know," she said, sitting across from him. "That's not why I'm here." She set her phone on the table between them, screen down. Michael studied her face, calmer than he'd expected. "I need to ask you something," she said, "and I want you to answer honestly." He nodded. "Why now?" she asked. "Why flowers after years of nothing?" Michael paused. His hands gripped the ceramic mug a little tighter. "Because I saw your face at that charity dinner," he said. "You weren't laughing. You weren't speaking. Just clearing glasses like you didn't belong there." "I didn't belong there," she replied. "Yes, you did," he said. "You were the only one who looked like she meant to help." Isabel looked down. He leaned forward. "And I thought, if no one ever tells you that you matter, then maybe I could be the one to try." She met his eyes then, and for a moment something almost softened. Almost. "But the thing is," she said quietly, "you don't really know me." "I know enough." "No." Her voice was firmer now. "You know how I made you feel. That's different." Michael sat back, face tightening. "I liked the flowers," she added. "They reminded me I was visible, but I'm not a symbol, Michael. I'm not someone you rescue because you feel guilty about being part of a system that ignored me." A pause. "I don't want to be your good deed," she finished. He said nothing, because what could he say? He'd meant well, but maybe that wasn't enough anymore. She stood. "Thank you for noticing me, truly, but I've started noticing myself too, and I don't want to give that up for anyone." As she turned to leave, he reached out. Not to stop her, just to speak. "Do you love him?" he asked. She paused. "I don't know what I feel," she said, "but I know he sees all of me, even the parts I'm still figuring out." And then she was gone. Back at Grant and Hawthorne, Alexander was staring at the framed blueprint of the company's original office from 1984. It hung crooked on the far wall. He'd never fixed it. His thoughts were scattered. Not like him, normally he could compartmentalize. Budget issues in one box, personnel changes in another. But Isabel Reed wasn't fitting in any box. He'd tried not to see her. That had been easy, until someone else did. And now? Now he couldn't unsee her, the strength in her silence. The way she held eye contact just long enough to unsettle, the warmth she reserved only for those who earned it. There were women who dazzled, and then there was Isabel, who remained. He rubbed his temple. And for the first time in years, Alexander Grant didn't feel like he was in control. At 6:40 p.m., she returned to the office, long after most had gone. Only the cleaning staff remained. One gave her a quiet nod. The other whispered, "We missed your flowers." She smiled faintly, grateful. Her desk was still stripped bare. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out the anonymous photo. Then, slowly and deliberately, she tore it in half, then in half again. She dropped the pieces in the shred bin, brushing her fingers clean. Behind her, the click of shoes echoed in the hallway. She turned. Alexander stood there, coat slung over one shoulder expression unreadable. "You shouldn't be here alone," he said. "Neither should you," she replied. He stepped closer. "Not invading, inviting." "I heard about Michael," he said. She arched a brow. "From who?" "I have ears." She smiled just a little. "And eyes, apparently." He hesitated. Then, "I've been thinking—" She waited. "About the first time I noticed you," he continued. "It wasn't the flowers, it wasn't the smile." She tilted her head. "It was a Wednesday. You stayed late to rework a quarterly report for marketing after their lead botched it." "That happened more than once," she said dryly. "I remember," he said. "But that night, you left the office and I saw you on the sidewalk. It was raining. You didn't have an umbrella." Isabel's breath caught slightly. "You didn't run," he said. "You just walked through the rain like it didn't bother you, head high. Calm." "And you watched?" He nodded. She looked at him carefully. "You could have offered me your umbrella." "I didn't know how to approach you," he admitted. Her voice softened. "You were my boss. I was scared of getting it wrong." For a man like him, that admission was rare. He stepped closer, this time close enough to matter. "I don't want to get it wrong now," he said quietly. Isabel's heart pounded, but she didn't speak. Instead, she glanced toward the lounge, the place where people went to pretend they weren't watching anyone. "Come on," she said. "You owe me one more cup of tea." He smiled. "I thought I made terrible tea." "You do," she said, already walking, "but you can carry the tray." The boardroom was full by 9:03 a.m., notebooks open, suits straightened, faces unreadable. Alexander Grant sat at the head of the table. Sleeves rolled up, no tie. A silent signal that formality was taking a back seat to something more urgent. Isabel stood near the side wall, clipboard in hand, posture composed. She wasn't a guest. She wasn't support staff. She was part of the room. At 9:06, the projector blinked to life. A timeline appeared on screen, showing the anonymous leaks. Photos, internal email logs. 3 weeks of sabotage, said the head of IT, pointing with a stylus, each file accessed under Savannah Clark's login. Savannah sat motionless at the far end of the table. Her red lipstick looked sharper than usual, but her smile was gone. "I didn't do it," she said flatly. Alexander didn't blink. "Then how do you explain the login credentials? I leave my computer unlocked. Anyone could have—" "No one else had your password." "Maybe someone guessed it." 16 characters? Isabel spoke gently now, her voice even. "Upper and lowercase? Numbers and symbols? I doubt it." Savannah turned toward her. "You've always had a talent for pretending to be small while holding a knife." Isabel didn't flinch. "And you've always spoken like a woman afraid someone else might rise." A beat, gasps, one quiet cough. Mrs. Weatherby, the silver-haired board member who'd called Isabel dangerous in the right way, Pipenkum, leaned forward and said, "I'd watch my tone, Miss Clark. You're bleeding in a room full of wolves." Savannah stood. Her chair scraped against the floor, loud and graceless. She looked once at Alexander, as if waiting for him to stop her. He didn't. She left. No one called her back. After the room cleared, only a few remained. Alexander, Isabel, Weatherby, and 2 senior board members who were pretending not to be entirely fascinated. "Well," Weatherby said, straightening her pearl brooch, "that was more satisfying than my usual Friday yoga." Alexander gave a weary smile. "Thank you for attending. Oh, please." She waved a hand. "I came for the scandal, stayed for the dignity." She turned to Isabel. "And you, Ms. Reed, have that rare kind of poise that terrifies insecure women and intrigues powerful men. Keep it, use it, don't apologize for it." Isabel inclined her head with quiet grace. "Thank you, Mrs. Weatherby." Weatherby winked. "Call me Estelle when this scandal turns into a promotion." And with that, the boardroom emptied. Forensics later tied the anonymous notes and leaked photos to Savannah's access pattern, confirming what everyone had already suspected. The sabotage had come from within, leaving just the two of them. Ooh. Alexander sat down again, slowly, like someone coming out of a storm. Isabel remained standing. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. He looked at her, truly looked. "I should be the one asking that." "I'm fine." "You didn't deserve any of it." "I know." A pause. He exhaled, leaned back, and said, "You scare me sometimes." "Why?" "Because you know exactly when to speak and when to stay silent. That's power I never learned." She walked over to the table, placed her clipboard down. "You've had the kind of power that fills rooms," she said. "Mine lives in the spaces between words. Doesn't mean it's less real." He nodded slowly, eyes never leaving her. "You stood there this morning like the room belonged to you." "It didn't," she said. Not yet?" He smiled at that, small, tired, real. "Would you like to sit?" he asked. "I would," she said. But instead of sitting across from him, she walked around the table and pulled out the chair beside his. It was a quiet choice, a powerful one. Later that afternoon, as Isabel stepped into the break room, David from accounting was by the coffee machine, struggling to open a tiny creamer pod. He looked up. "Your name's everywhere today," he said. "Half the company wants to know if you're secretly royalty." She chuckled. "Only if royalty brings their own lunch." "Guess we'll find out at the next all-hands meeting. You'll probably be the one running it." She took a tea bag from the shelf, paused, then smiled. "David?" "Yeah?" "Thanks for reminding me I mattered. Before anyone else did." He blinked. Sure, of course." "Anytime." As she turned to go, he called after her. "So, hypothetically, if I'd written, 'You deserve to take up space,' would I be disqualified from trying to ask you out someday?" She laughed, truly, freely. "That would have earned you a coffee," she said, still smiling, "but the handwriting wasn't yours." He groaned. "Knew I should have taken that calligraphy class." That evening, as golden hour washed the city in soft light, Isabel stood at her apartment window, mug of tea in hand. She reached into her coat pocket one last time and pulled out what remained of the note. The one she hadn't torn, the one that had arrived with the flowers. "You deserve to take up space." This time she didn't fold it back up. She pinned it to her fridge, not as a reminder of who sent it, but of who she'd become since reading it. Behind her, her phone buzzed, a message from Alexander. "Tomorrow, 7:30 a.m. Conference lounge, I have something I want to say. Just to you." She reread it twice, then typed back, "Bring tea." At 7:28 a.m., Isabel stepped into the executive conference lounge on the 20th floor, the one with high windows and the kind of silence that felt expensive. Sunlight poured in lazily across the oak table, casting long golden lines across the polished surface. The city outside was only beginning to stir, the skyline still wrapped in early morning haze. And there, standing by the small hospitality station near the corner, was Alexander Grant. He wasn't in his usual navy suit, no blazer, no tie, just a simple slate-gray sweater rolled up at the sleeves. Dark trousers and a kind of quiet presence that was new, almost unguarded. She noticed his hair was slightly mussed, like he'd gotten ready in a rush and forgotten to fix it. He turned when he heard her. "I wasn't sure if you'd come," he said softly. "You invited me," she replied, stepping further into the room. "I've invited a lot of people in my life," he said. "Doesn't mean they show up." He held out a white mug. Steam curled upward from the top. The scent caught her first. Pure chamomile, warm and calming. Her brows lifted in faint amusement. "You remembered," she said. "I asked Estelle," he admitted. She said, "Ask her yourself." "I didn't." "Of course not," she said, taking the mug. They sat, not across from each other, but side by side, facing the window. No files between them, no notepads, no shields, just tea. And whatever this was. For a long moment neither spoke. The quiet between them wasn't awkward. It was something heavier, respectful, careful. "I've been thinking," Alexander finally said, "about visibility." She listened. He didn't rush the words. "You've spent most of your career fading into rooms that depended on you, making other people look strong, capable, in control, and in return, they ignored the fact that you were all of those things yourself." She didn't respond, just took a sip, letting the warmth settle in her chest. "And I was one of them," he added, "and I hate that." His voice wasn't bitter, just honest, regretful in a way that only someone truly self-aware could sound. He set his mug down, rubbed his palms together like someone trying to keep the truth from slipping. "When I was 10, he said, "my mother left." Isabel turned her head, surprised by the shift in tone. "She left a note on the counter," he continued. "No goodbye, no phone number, just a piece of paper. Folded once. She said she was sorry, but she didn't know how to stay." The window reflected his face in silhouette. Sharp jawline, lowered eyes, voice stripped of its usual command. She was beautiful, kind when she wanted to be, but soft around the edges. And the world doesn't forgive softness. "So she vanished." Isabel said nothing. "I started tracking things after that," he murmured. "Schedules, temper, outcomes. I learned that control meant no one could surprise you or leave without warning." She watched him closely. "And then," he said, finally meeting her eyes, "you walked into my world. Quiet, consistent, not asking for space, just taking it without permission, gently." He smiled, but there was pain beneath it. "I didn't know what to do with someone like you." Her throat tightened. But still she stayed composed. "I wasn't looking to be seen," she said. "I know, and that's what undid me." He leaned forward, elbows on the table, tea forgotten. "You weren't flashy. You didn't play the game. But you made everything work. Every corner I turned, there you were, holding the details together while everyone else got credit." He paused. "I didn't see it. Not until someone else did." She looked down, and then she said it quietly. "You were always polite, but never kind." He blinked, not defensively, thoughtfully. "That's true. And now," he exhaled, "now I'm trying." A long moment passed. Outside, the city's hum began to rise. Horns, heels, elevator dings. But up here, they were still suspended in quiet. Isabel swirled her tea once. "Do you regret offering me the job?" she asked. "No," he said instantly. "I regret not offering it a year earlier." She smiled, faint but real. "I thought you promoted me to keep me close," she said. "I did." She looked up. "But not to control you," he added. "To learn from you, to work beside you. And if I say no, you say no? And I'll still carry your tea down the hall every time you're 5 minutes early?" She almost laughed at that. Almost. A soft knock broke the moment. Estelle Weatherby cracked the door open, her pearl earrings catching the sunlight. "Sorry to intrude," she said, holding a thick white envelope. "Just dropping this off. I assume you two are working out the future of the firm, or something far more delicate." She winked at Isabel, who smiled warmly. Estelle handed Alexander the envelope and disappeared like a ghost in heels. He opened it and frowned. "Savannah's resignation," he said. "Official. Effective immediately." Isabel didn't react, just took another sip of tea. She also included a list of recommendations for who should replace her, he said, quoting airily. "None of them are you." "That tracks." He turned toward her. "I'm not giving that position to any of her picks, but I'm not giving it to you either, not unless you want it." She raised an eyebrow. "I want you to choose what comes next," he said, voice softer. "Not have it assigned. You've earned that right." Isabel stood slowly, smoothed her blouse, straightened her spine. "I'll think about it." He nodded. "I hope you do," he said. She turned toward the door, ready to leave, when her hand brushed her coat pocket. She paused, then reached in. She walked back and placed a small folded piece of paper on the table between them. He looked down, recognized it. The note. You deserve to take up space. He glanced up. I kept it, she said. For weeks. His voice was low. Why now? I don't need it anymore, she said. Then after a pause, because I believe it, she walked out. This time, not silently. And he didn't stop her. 3 months later, the role had been formalized as Executive Liaison, Strategic Affairs, and she walked into the boardroom like she'd been walking toward it all her life. She wasn't early. She wasn't late. She was perfectly timed, calm, present, and completely composed. Her forest green suit was tailored and minimal, the same shade as the blouse she used to wear when no one noticed her. But now nothing about her went unseen. Her heels clicked once on the marble floor. Just once. Then the entire room quieted. She wasn't the assistant anymore. She was the one leading the quarterly strategy session, the one board members from 4 countries had flown in to attend. The brass nameplate on the long glass table didn't just confirm her position, it marked her arrival. Isabel Reed, Executive Liaison, Strategic Affairs. She placed her tablet down, took a deep breath, and met the eyes of every person at the table. No one dared interrupt her now, not after everything. The meeting moved with rhythm and precision, partly because she had orchestrated the flow herself, partly because no one wanted to test her anymore. Once, someone might have called her lucky. Now, they called her essential. When a department head challenged her on funding allocations, she didn't raise her voice or shift in her seat. She simply said, "We can move that conversation to data, but if you'd prefer assumptions, I'll step out." He backed down, smiling but cornered. Isabel didn't blink. At her side, Estelle Weatherby whispered through her teeth, "If I had your posture at your age, I would have run this entire firm." Isabel didn't respond. She just straightened her spine half an inch more. After the meeting ended and the doors opened, Alexander was already waiting, not with a driver. Not in his corner office, just waiting. Outside the boardroom, 2 takeaway cups in hand. When Isabel stepped out, the hallway was still clearing. Interns with tablets moved quickly past. Executives whispered in corners, but Alexander only looked at her. He held out one of the cups. "Cinnamon and chamomile," he said, with a quiet smile. "Still your favorite?" She accepted the tea. "You remembered." "I never forgot." They walked slowly down the corridor, matching steps. "I watched the entire meeting," he said, "didn't say a word." "I know. You held that room better than I ever have." She gave him a side glance. "Is that difficult to admit?" "Only to myself," he said. "You've always been better at choosing your moments." They passed the executive lounge, the one where they'd once shared tea before everything changed. He nodded toward it. "Want to sit for a few minutes?" She looked at the time, then shrugged. 5 minutes. Inside, the lounge was empty. Morning light poured in through the tall windows, dust dancing softly in the air. They sat where they always had, side by side, not too close. He turned toward her slightly. "I kept something," he said. She looked at him. He reached into the inner pocket of his blazer and pulled out a small folded paper. The corners were worn. She recognized it immediately. The note, "You deserve to take up space." "You kept it?" she asked. "I couldn't throw it away," he said, "even when you left it behind, especially then." She stayed quiet. "I thought I'd give it back one day," he continued, "but not because you needed it. Because maybe—" "I did." Her gaze softened. He handed it to her, not pushing, not asking. She took it slowly, fingertips brushing his as she did. Then, instead of tucking it away, she opened it right there between them. She looked down at the words, then back up at him. "I don't need this reminder anymore," she said. He nodded once. "But I still want it," she added. A silence bloomed between them, not awkward, not heavy, just full. Outside the glass, traffic began to hum below. People filed into buildings with lanyards and coffee cups and plans for their day. But in here, It felt like time had slowed down. Alexander leaned back slightly. "I had a thought during your presentation," he said. "Oh?" "That maybe we've been looking at power the wrong way." She tilted her head. "We talk about who's in charge, who gets the last word. But watching you today, I realized something." "What's that?" He smiled. "You never raised your voice. You never demanded the floor, but no one took it from you either. That's power." She looked out the window, then back at him. "Would you say that 3 months ago?" "I don't think I had the words." He paused. "But I do now." She waited. "I see you," he said. "Not because you did anything dramatic, but because I finally looked up." Her heart beat a little faster, but she didn't say anything just yet. They sat quietly for another minute. Then Isabel stood. He rose too, instinctively. At the door, she looked back at him. "Thank you for the tea." "Any time," he said. "I mean it," she added, gently. "Not just the drink, the noticing." He nodded once. "I'll keep showing up, if that matters." "It does," she said. And with that, she walked out, the note still in her hand, the city glowing beyond the windows. Months later, their joint philanthropic arm, now the Grant and Reed Foundation, opened its rooftop garden, a space built to remind the company what visibility and grace could create together. 1 year later, the city moved as it always did, fast, loud, full of ambition. But at the rooftop garden of the newly opened Grant and Reed Foundation, everything was still. Sunlight poured gently over white marble benches and rows of lavender. Ivy climbed the far walls. In the center stood a long, curved bench beneath a blooming cherry tree. This space didn't exist a year ago. Now it did. Because of her. Isabel Reed stood near the edge, looking out over the skyline with a quiet pride she no longer tried to hide. She wasn't in a suit today. Just a soft cream blouse and tailored pants, no name badge, no schedule in hand. And yet, everyone still turned when she entered, because now they didn't follow her title. They followed her presence. The ribbon-cutting ceremony had ended 20 minutes ago. The press had taken their photos. The speeches were done. The donors were mingling downstairs with wine and appetizers, but Isabel had slipped away. She needed one last moment of silence before the rest of her life continued. That's when she heard the footsteps. Not rushed, familiar. Alexander. He approached from behind, slower now, no longer the man who moved like the world owed him answers. She didn't turn, just said, "I thought you'd be downstairs charming the board." He came to stand beside her. "They're fine," he said. "They don't need me. You built this." She looked at him. "We built it." He gave her a smile, soft, slow. But then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled something out. She didn't need to see it to know what it was. He held the small folded note between his fingers, edges still slightly creased, corners worn from being opened too many times. "You deserve to take up space. Only this time." It had something added. She blinked and took it from him. Inside, beneath the original words, in his handwriting, "You always did." But now the whole world knows it too. She read it once, then again. Her hands closed around the note. "May I keep it?" she asked. He laughed quietly. "It's always been yours." They stood silently for a while. Around them the garden was bathed in golden hour light. Wind moved through the trees. Somewhere someone was laughing downstairs. And finally Isabel said, "You asked me once what I wanted." "I remember." I never answered. He waited. "I want quiet," she said. "And clarity. I want to work beside people who listen, not just speak. I want to make things that last longer than the headlines. I want love that grows slowly, the kind that doesn't beg for attention." He said nothing, but he stepped a little closer. "And I want someone who doesn't try to outshine me," she added. "Just walks next to me, proud." Alexander looked at her. "That's how I see you." Her breath caught. She turned to face him. "Properly now. You used to walk past me without looking." "I know." But now? He smiled. Now I can't look away. He reached for her hand, not asking. She gave it freely. The moment didn't need anything else. No kiss, no grand gesture, no orchestras or promises. Just two people, quietly choosing one another after everything. And around them, the garden stood as proof that something once invisible could become permanent. Some women are told to stay quiet, to make others look good, to step aside and let louder people take the credit. But not Isabel Reed. She didn't shout, she didn't push, she just stayed, graceful, steady, until the world finally noticed her. And once they did, she never had to whisper again. The end. And now, your turn. Have you ever been the quiet one in the room until the day you finally took your space? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your voice. If this story moved you, leave a like. Share your favorite moment, rate it from 0 to 10, and subscribe for more stories like this, where dignity, love, and justice always find a way. Until next time, walk tall, speak softly, and never wait to be seen. See you in the next story.